Welcome, everyone. My name is Ricardo Camacho, Director of Regulatory Safety and Security Compliance, and thank you for joining us today to go over what's new in the Parasoft C C test 2023.2 release. And I'm here with my friend and colleague Miroslav Zielinski, Director of Product Management for C C test. How about giving us a hi, Mirek?
Hello, everybody.
Thanks. And Mirek, it's always a pleasure doing these release webinars with you. You know, we are both very excited to be bringing you yet another fantastic release. Back in May, our release of C C test provided complete support for MISRA C 2023. And I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but this release provides complete support for MISRA C 2023. So fantastic news to our customers who have been waiting for MISRA to announce and publish this long and awaited C coding standard. Anyway, it's going to be a very informative presentation, so let's start by taking a look at the agenda. First, I'm going to give you a quick glance at MISRA C 2023, and I'll walk you through that evolution, which consists of it being a joint effort between the AUTOSAR and MISRA organizations. So we will touch on some of the differences between the standards and then how Parasoft C C++ fully supports MISRA C++ 2023. We also have added various enhancements and capabilities that contribute to our support of modern C++, as well as usability enhancements for Visual Studio, VS Code, and extended capabilities in suppressing static analysis violations. And as we always do for each release, we continue to add support for new compilers and new versions of existing compilers. I will then play a demo recording of C C++ test 2023-2 in action, focused on our key integration with MISRA C++ 2023. Mirek created this fantastic and very educational product demo. Then afterwards, Mirek and I will open things up for live Q&A. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to go through some housekeeping. As you may be aware, everybody's microphone has been muted. However, if you have questions, please enter them into the questions dialog box at any time. Although we're having a live Q&A at the end, you can again enter these questions beforehand. Also, this presentation is being recorded and will be made available typically within 4 to 8 hours after the presentation has concluded. All right, so let's get started. The MISRA organization announced the latest coding guidelines of C++ on November 29th, but technically it's dated as October 2023. And we are very proud to say that not only did we contribute to the development of the standard, but Parasoft also put all of their development resources into providing our customers with complete support for MISRA C++ 2023 in this latest release of C C++ test 2023.2. We are also the first to have the solution available on the market, and it highlights our commitment to you, our customers, and the software industry. Okay, important to note is that the MISRA C++ 2023 standard focuses on the use of C++ 17, particularly for critical systems. C++ 17 refers to a more modern revision of the C++ programming language released back in 2017, formerly known as the standard ISO 14882 2017. Anyway, C++ 17 was built upon the coding or implementation features introduced in C++ 11 and C++ 14, and includes several new features and improvements aimed at making the use of C++ 17 safer and more efficient. Many of our customers have moved to C++ 17, and now through Parasoft C++ Test 2023.2, you have a way to test your C++ 17 code against a formal coding standard, ensuring safety and security. Just to touch on the new standard, there are a total of 179 guidelines. 5 of them are mandatory, which means that you have to abide by these 5 guidelines or you are not compliant with the standard. There are 124 required guidelines which you also need to abide by. However, you can deviate from these by providing formal deviation reports. And there are 50 advisory guidelines which help improve a project's code quality and should be followed. However, you don't have to abide by them, and no formal deviation is required. Also, you can find and purchase this standard from Amazon for, I believe it's 45 euros. To give you a little more perspective on the need and evolution of the standard, I thought it would be good to go through a quick evolutionary review of the C++ coding language and the coding standards in support of it. The first C++ coding standard was published back in 2008 by the MISRA organization, and it was in support of C++ '03, and actually it also supported C++ '98. Almost a decade later, AutoSAR C++ 14 was published. AutoSAR is an organization focused on standardizing the software architecture of automotive electronic control units, ECUs. Well, they got weary of waiting for the next revision of MISRA C++ 2008 in support of C++ 11 and C++ 14, so they created their own, and AutoSAR C++ 14 was born. It includes around 70% of the MISRA C++ 2008 guidelines and actually adds many more rules. Then in 2019, MISRA and AutoSAR announced that they would join forces. MISRA will merge the AutoSAR C++ 14 guidelines with its own established best practices to develop a single go-to language subset for safety-related C++ development. So now you have MISRA C++ 2023. The guidelines incorporate the C++ 17 version of the programming language, and later down the road, it's to support its successor, C++ 20. Now, I decided that it would be good to put up a comparison between MISRA C++ 2023 and AutoSAR C++ 14. You may have questions around migrating to MISRA C++ 2023, so I want to give you a quick assessment path and also put a little more context around AutoSAR. AutoSAR is an open and standardized software architecture framework. This framework established a common set of standards for the design and development of automotive software. Therefore, the AutoSAR C++ 14 coding standard contains guidelines not just on the implementation of C++, but also guidelines that target the tool chains, the design, documentation, a few other things, which actually don't relate to just the C++ implementation. So it may be perceived to have some unnecessary guidelines. However, a best practice and what organizations have been doing for many years is to create their own coding standard configuration. And what they do is they enable or disable the some of the AutoSAR C++ coding guidelines. So the bottom line is that if a team is using C++ 14, there is no need to change to MISRA C++ 2023. Now, if the organization is using C++ 17, then yes, I recommend migrating to C++ 2023. And don't forget that if you happen to be an automotive customer and want to bridge AutoSAR C++ 14 guidelines with MISRA C++ 2023, you can by creating a test configuration in Parasoft C C++ test that contains both of the standards. Okay, one other question that you may have is what to do if you're using C++ 20. My recommendation is to move forward and adopt MISRA C++ 2023. This will ensure that your C++ code is as safe and secure as possible. There is no fixed date for the next publication, but the MISRA working group has already started work on updating the current release document. Right now, they are reviewing issues reported against the rules to make sure that they are addressed in subsequent updates. And then after that, the group is going to investigate the changes and new features of C++ 20. Let's now get into our complete solution for MISRA C++ 2023. Again, our development team has done a phenomenal job in making it available in our C C++ test 2023.2 release. We have complete and full support for MISRA C++ 2023. And as expected, our C++ test static analysis solution of MISRA C++ 2023 seamlessly plugs into modern development CI/CD workflows. Parasoft C C++ test is integrated with GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Bazel, Jenkins, and also available through VS Code CI workflows and can be used at the desktop through integrations with a comprehensive list of IDEs like Eclipse, Microsoft Visual Studio, VS Code, uh, Wind River Workbench, IR Workbench, and actually many more. Also, C C++ Test has been TubeSuite certified for use on safety critical applications. We can provide you with the TubeSuite certificate, and we also have a tool qualification kit. In addition, our reporting and analytics dashboard, DTP, has also been TubeSuite certified for use on safety critical applications. DTP also monitors progress towards compliance and auto generates the reports needed to demonstrate compliance. We generate the four required reports as per the compliance standard. These documents consist of the compliance report, the recategorization report, the deviation report, and the guideline enforcement plan. In addition, and being the innovative company that we are, Parasoft has incorporated artificial intelligence and machine learning into DTP to provide productivity in your team's static analysis workflow. The AI will prioritize all your violations and flag the most urgent violations that need to be fixed first. So, this is a full and complete solution, everything needed for an organization to achieve compliance to MISRA C++ 2023 and actually other standards that we also support, like Cert C, Cert C++, CWE, OWASP, and others. I still find it surprising that some organizations have not adopted static analysis. You have probably heard of many times the term shift left to find defects earlier when they are cheaper to fix. The cost of fixing bugs increases as you move through each of the development phases because at the next development phase, more people have to be involved, more effort, more time, scheduling delays may occur, documentation may need to be updated, software patches may be required, and the list continues to grow. And if the product happens to go out with a severe defect, then you may have recalls, lawsuits. Basically, the costs can be astronomical. So, based on my experience and message here, is that if you are not applying static analysis from the get go, your cost of testing is not being mitigated. Adopting static analysis is very easy to do, especially with Parasoft C C++ test, because we plug right into your IDE or into your build process. It's easy. There are some other enhancements that we have included in this release that many of you, our customers, have requested. A couple of enhancements have to do with providing support for modern C++ implementation features. One of them is code coverage for const expressions. Const expression is a modern C++ keyword introduced to improve code efficiency. Functions or methods declared as const expressions are evaluated by the compiler during the build process, and when a value is computed at compile time instead of at runtime, it helps your program run faster and use less memory. Therefore, the application is more efficient. Now, obtaining code coverage from const expression functions is technically challenging, but Parasoft has integrated the solution into our latest release and it outperforms all other solutions available. Teams can now easily obtain code coverage on const expressions functions to streamline and easily satisfy compliance towards their code coverage requirement. Another enhancement is with our test execution framework. Stubbing has been enhanced to be able to create stubs for template class functions being called from other templates. As you can see from the image on the right, line code number 8 and the stub shown at the bottom of the graphic. This capability allows users to isolate code for unit testing or find bugs early where the interface is known but the implementation is not yet finalized. So it supports fault injection testing and error guessing testing by enabling the injection of arbitrary faults or values in order to test for safety and even security. Again, this is an enhancement request from our customers. Now, the rest of the enhancements have been around usability and integration to increase user productivity. For example, many of you have been moving from previous 32-bit editions of Microsoft Visual Studio to Microsoft Visual Studio 2022. Parasoft C C++ Test Professional 2023.2 fully supports this IDE in 64-bit edition, and we also actually provide a dedicated installer. We have also added the ability to map the severity level of identified static analysis issues to the Visual Studio Code severity levels, and also added the ability to filter by severity. This is a feature that helps developers work in a more productive way. For example, if a developer gets flooded with lots of identified issues, they can quickly sort and prioritize them by severity. This helps developers address the higher risk issues first, making them more productive. We have also enhanced our reporting by providing the generation of reports in different formats. Many of you requested to be able to generate multiple reports in different formats and simultaneously in a single analysis run as part of their CI/CD automation. So expect to experience productivity savings in your cloud resources and CI/CD workflow. Many customers also requested the following enhancement. We call it the next line suppression. This feature simplifies suppressing static analysis violations in the code, but within a single line and just above the line of code that produces the violation. This was requested because in some cases, we produce suppression statements that exceeded an organization's coding standard. I put the expected syntax at the bottom of the slide, and also there's a few example scenarios that follow it. There is also one more usability topic to mention. Many of you, our customers, switch compilers or adopt new compilers. Therefore, Parasoft is constantly adding new compiler support in virtually every release that we produce. So twice or more per year at minimum. So we have added a collection of GNU GCC compiler versions. Clang, Tesking, IAR, and Qualcomm compilers were also added. For the full list of compilers, visit our website's CC++ test product page. You will find a technical specifications link that will take you to that information. Okay, let's get to the demo.
For the demonstration, we'll use a Linux workstation with VS Code and Parasoft C++ Test, GitHub as the CI platform, and one of the open source projects as a codebase. During the demonstration, we'll go through the following steps: creating some new code in a feature branch, running a quick pre-commit static analysis session focused on the most obvious problems, creating a pull request in GitHub, which will trigger a pipeline with MISRA quality gate, and updating the code to meet the pull request's quality gate requirements. So let's switch to the development workstation. I'm using VS Code, and I already have a local clone of my GitHub repository here. I'm working on a feature branch trying to implement new functionality for my system. Per business agreement, my project has to comply with MISRA C++ 2023. My compliance process includes two steps: quick local scans with a subset of checkers done by developers when creating a new code, and complete enforcement of MISRA C++ guidelines integrated with the GitHub pull requests. I have a dedicated tool configurations for both steps. So let's implement something in our feature branch. Let's say we need a function that generates random strings, and we want to use this function to initialize a global variable. Before I commit, I will run a quick local scan. Now Parasoft C++ test analyzes my code with a subset of MISRA C++ 2023 guidelines optimized for fast feedback, and in a few seconds we will have results. Clearly, my new code is not MISRA compliant. We have two problems reported for our new code. The first issue is a violation of required rule 672. Global variables shall not be used. That's a simple rule and in general we like it, but let's say that we have a dependency here on adopted code and we can't easily change this design. So since this is a required rule, we can suppress the violation. Of course, we need to provide all required details to get our deviation approved. The second violation breaks the rule 18.4.1. Exception unfriendly functions shall be no except. In the rule documentation, we can find a description and examples showing incorrect and corrected code. To fix this problem, we need to explicitly declare our new function as no except. And we also need a change in a header file. And now we are ready to push our changes to GitHub. We need to add a comment and push it. Obviously, we are interested in merging our new code with main branch. So let's go to GitHub and create a pull request. Our pull request triggered the pipeline with MISRA C++ quality gate. In our local scans, only the most important rules are included to assure minimal delays. In pull requests, we are enforcing compliance with the complete selection. Let's give it a second to finish, and our pipeline is done. We can clearly see that we are not yet ready to merge our code because a new problem was found. Let's click Show More Details. This additional finding is a violation of MISRA Rule 11.6.2. Thanks to the C++ test GitHub's integration, we see details directly in the pull request. We can click Show Paths to see easy to understand path-like presentation. In this specific case, C++ test found a path when an initialized class member is used. I have enough information here to fix the problem, but for me as a developer, it's more convenient to act directly in my favorite VS Code. So let me go back to my editor and simply download pipeline static analysis results to my workspace. Now I locally have everything I need to fix the problem. So let me quickly get the code right, and I'm ready to push my code. The push operation will trigger the pipeline again, and we are expecting a clean run now since we fixed the only problem. And indeed, our quality gate is now opened. And we are ready to merge our new code. Alright, so what we just saw was an example of a streamlined modern development workflow that enables developers to create MISRA compliant code with minimal overhead. But to document our effort and the level of compliance, we need reports. And this is what Parasoft's MISRA compliance reporting helps with. What you can see here is my project's dashboard. The dashboard provides essential information about my compliance process. As you can see here, I'm not yet compliant with the new MISRA C++, but the trend graph shows that my team has a pretty good and stable progress. This gives me confidence that the team will make it on time. If my progress slows down, the violations trend widget gives me a chance to react and assign more resources. This kind of insights is essential for any persona involved in the safety process management. As you can see here, at this moment I have 154 MISRA violations and 25 deviations. Widgets in the second line show violations distribution across MISRA categories. My situation with mandatory guidelines looks pretty good. My codebase is clean. For the required guidelines, the team still needs to work on the codebase as there are 81 violations and we also have some deviations. With advisory guidelines, the situation is similar. Widgets below present violations distribution across MISRA rules. Specifically, the tree map view helps to understand which guidelines cause the most significant trouble and plan the work appropriately to avoid surprises. With Parasoft compliance reporting, I can reduce the risk of not meeting my deadlines. But there is one more important aspect here. We mentioned a couple of times that organizations need to follow reporting recommendations from the MISRA compliance document to claim MISRA guidelines compliance. In between other things, MISRA compliance requires 4 special reports. Guidelines compliance summary with the information about compliance status for every guideline. Guidelines enforcement plan, which documents the technical means used for enforcing every guideline. Guidelines recategorization plan, which documents project-specific changes in the guidelines categories. And deviations report, which provides visibility into deviations added by developers. These reports are automatically generated in the system and they are ready to use for your audits. So to conclude our demo, what we just presented is a complete solution for enforcing the new MISRA C++ standard. It includes the static analyzer with the complete coverage for the new MISRA C++, CI workflows and VS Code integration, and web-based compliance reporting. And that's all we wanted to share with you in the demonstration part.
I hope you enjoyed that very educational presentation from that Merrick created. Anyways, there's one more bit of information that I'd like to convey. Parasoft is committed to offering our customers the best in software test automation in a continuous integration and continuous delivery workflow. Parasoft offers a tool suite set of solutions that support your DevOps, CI/CD development ecosystem for embedded and enterprise applications. So besides testing safety and security critical applications, we also offer API security testing, service virtualization, even web UI testing. And we also support other coding languages like Java, C#, and VB.NET. And if you missed it, we delivered a webinar on everything you need to know about MISRA C++ 2023. You will see Miric's demo, but you will also see the full presentation, which includes Michał Rosenau's dive into the technical details of MISRA C++ 2023. Michał Rosenau is our resident expert and sits in both the MISRA C++ and MISRA C working groups. We actually helped define the standard, and I've placed a QR code there to your right so that it'll take you right to the on-demand presentation on that. Now, any customers that want to download our latest 2023.2 release of CC++ tests, please visit the Parasoft customer portal. If you are a prospect and want to learn more about CC++ tests, please request a custom in-depth demo. I've placed a QR code there on the left-hand side. You can also visit our website, parasoft.com, and navigate to the C++ test product page. There you will find a request, a demo button, and there's also a take a tour button, which will take you through a simulated tour of C++ test, which I highly recommend. The QR code in the center is the one that will actually also take you to that simulated tour. And we have lots of educational content. The QR code on the far right-hand side will take you there. Also, if you have any questions after the webinar, please send us an email at info@parasoft.com. You can also find us and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. All right, Mirik, we're going to open it up for Q&A. We have several questions here. Is it possible to print out a copy of the compliance report from your DTP system?
Yes, that's possible. All the reports from the MISRA compliance reporting can be exported to PDF, and then, if needed, printed on paper.
Okay. There's one question here. I can take this one. What is the difference between violations and deviations? Is it related to MISRA rules? So you have a violation is when there's an identified issue with the code. Sometimes those violations, you may want to override them if they're not the mandatory ones. And so what you can do is you create what's called a deviation. And so it's a report. It's you need to specify why you're deviating from that violation. And there are some cases that you can do that. So anyways, that helps answer that one. Here's another question. Is there a separate license required for your VS Code extension?
No, VS Code extension does not require any additional license. If you already have a license for static analysis, you can simply download the VS Code extension from the VS Code marketplace. That's free of charge.
Okay. When do you plan to support the latest IAR ARM 9.5 compiler?
I'm guessing this is about the Windows version of IAR compiler. In this release, we added support for 9.2 Linux edition, and 9.4 and 9.5 are planned for our newest release, 24.1.
Very nice. Now, it says here you added a new way of suppressing violations in the code. Does it mean the old way is deprecated?
No, the new way of suppressing violations is just an additional option, and users can pick whichever works better for them. So the new way does not replace previously available features for suppressing violations.
Okay, perfect. Now it says, can I use the new plugin for Visual Studio 2022 also for the Visual Studio 2019?
We have a dedicated installer that supports 64-bit edition Visual Studio 2022. So you can use it only for Visual Studio 2022, and then future releases. For previous releases, we have a different installer.
Okay, well, Mirik, I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much. It's a fantastic presentation. And if there's any questions after the webinar, please, you can email us at info@parasoft.com, or if we miss something, we'll get back to you. Thank you, and that concludes the webinar. Bye-bye, folks.
Thank you.